Tala Falava and welcome to the Global Bus Figure Success Podcast. I'm Andrew Fa'avali, your host. Every week I'll be chatting with successful Pacific people from across the globe, unpacking their stories and more importantly, picking out insights, lessons and golden nuggets you can use to live your best life too. It's really awesome to have Willie Leota all the way from Christchurch join us. Willie's a mortgage broker based in Christchurch, but has travelled across many places and learned a lot of lessons across place and sectors and study. But yeah, welcome, Willie. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm a mortgage broker. I've been in the industry for over 15 years. Started in banking, and I was in there for 12. Started as a teller and worked my way up and around, and then finished in commercial banking. And then now in the last 5 years, I've been a mortgage broker.
Awesome. So, it's a funny thing, podcast. It's like you were born and then you ended up on this podcast, but there's heaps of things that went on before. Obviously, you're of Samoan heritage. Were you born in New Zealand? And can you just tell us about those early days?
Born and bred in Palmerston North in the suburb of Highbury. A lot of, if you're from that area, represent. But your mum and dad are from Samoa. They came here in the late 70s. Mum's from Lalomanu in Upolu, and dad is from Avao in Savai'i.
Ah, cool. So they move straight to Palmy. What brought them over?
It's just looking for that better life, hearing relatives coming over to New Zealand and Australia, that coming over to the land of milk and honey. They come over to essentially provide, opportunities for us that they didn't have over there.
So why Palmy?
So they actually ended up in the huts in Wellington when they landed here because they had family there. But actually, my brother had severe asthma, my older brother. And so they were told by the doctors to move up to Palmy. And then that's where they moved north, but not too far. It was only about an hour and a half up the road to Palmy. And that's where, they landed. And my brother actually got better. So they stayed and got connected into the churches there. And yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Wellington, Auckland, they're the big hubs that the migration patterns usually landed in. What was it like in Palmerston North when you were there, maybe around the mid-'80s? Is that right? Around the mid-'80s?
Yeah, mid-'80s. I was born there, so 82. Yep.
Yeah.
We were probably a handful of families. Pacifica, definitely a handful of Samoan families there. But obviously being in the kind of rougher area of Palmy, you kind of ended up knowing all the Samoans. There's only a few families, and we all kind of went to the same churches too. So, growing up in school, I attended Palmy Boys. There's probably only about 20 of us, and most of us played in the first 15. So, so you kind of knew when your mates weren't at school. It's like, oh, is he wearing today? Was he?
Oh, cool. So what happened out of school?
It was good fun. There was a close community there.
Yeah, Palmerston North Boys has got a really good reputation. It's probably the main school in Palmerston North. There's boys' high and a girls' high. What happens after school for you? Did you have clear aspirations, or was it footy, or what was going on?
Yeah, well, I wanted to be a professional rugby player. I played in the first 15, and then I was kind of making the age groups for Manawatu, playing, and we were always, challenging Wellington, who was our kind of older brother, really. But they had a bomb team. They had our secondary school's team was playing against Manu, who was in, he's 82, kind of born in 82. So it was always tough playing Wellington. But, wanted to be a professional rugby player, went to uni as well and played for the varsity team there.
So was this in Palmerston at Massey, or did you go to Wellington?
Yep. Oh. So stayed in Palmy at Massey University. Began a business degree, but university study, I just didn't get it. It wasn't my thing. I didn't understand learning all the theories behind everything, and I actually ended up failing my whole kind of first semester there because I just didn't know, and I didn't get university study.
All right, so do you quit after that first semester, or what do you do?
I gave it another go. I went back and I started passing a few more papers, and then but to be honest, I really struggled. I battled it, I was battling, I stayed for another year. But the rugby club, so I played for Marist in Palmy. It's now Old Boys Marist. And they gave me a job at Easy Buy, just driving forklifts. And that was, I suppose it was kind of a lead into one of my first jobs, packing shelves for orders, understanding. And that's when I suppose my real kind of understanding of, oh man, I have to, I'm a financial advisor now, but back then I was like, oh, I really have to get a hold of this money thing, because when I was growing up, there was 7 of us kids in our family, and obviously mum and dad, and only dad was working, so there was hardly any money.
Yeah.
Hardly any money, hardly any food. We were renting a 3-bedroom home, so things were tight. But I still didn't get this money thing, but I really, really wanted to. And so I kind of wasted a whole bunch of my money. And then from there, a mate of mine who played rugby, he goes, hey, my dad, his dad was John Fleming, and he's an ex-All Black, and he played rugby in Scotland. And he came to me and he goes, hey, have you ever thought about playing rugby overseas? I was like, oh, no, never ever crossed my mind.
Really?
Yeah, I was in Highbury, and I was like, this is it. This is where I'm gonna live. I'm gonna stay here in my neighborhood. That's all I knew. And I was like, oh, I was married at the time, and my wife was like, hey, let's take a risk and let's go over. And so we did that. We did that for 2 years. Played a year in Scotland, and then a year in England, and it just really opened my eyes up to the opportunities that was available to the world, really. And it kind of opened my eyes and took the blinkers off as to actually there's more than just my neighborhood. Yeah.
So can we just timestamp and age stamp that? So it sounds like you got married pretty early. Is that right?
Yeah.
So how old were you?
Married at 21.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then at what age did you go abroad to Scotland?
25.
25.
Yeah.
So up until 25, you had attended Palmerston North Boys High, come out and went to Massey, which is in Palmy. You played for the local rugby club. You had worked in a few jobs, but you thought that was your lot. So to live in the suburb called Highbury, you married a local girl, and that was you.
Yep, I thought that was it. I was going to work at Easy Buy, stacking shelves, for the rest of my life.
All right, so then this dude comes up to you and asks you whether you've considered going over to play rugby abroad. At this point, were you playing rep rugby or were you playing club rugby? Or both?
Playing club, yeah.
Oh, yeah, cool.
And kind of in the Manawatu kind of academy, kind of in and out of that, yeah.
Yeah, which position did you play?
I was a flanker.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah. Cool. And so you go to Scotland, and that kind of breaks open your worldview on what you can achieve and where you might be able to land yourself.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, you land in Heathrow, and you just hit with culture. You hit with all these different nationalities, different cultures just straight away, and there's just people everywhere, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm not in the hood anymore. I'm in essentially London.
Yeah.
And then I was like, man, that there's a whole massive entire world out there that's left to explore. And that was a massive kind of eye opener for me.
Okay, so do you want to just break that eye opening kind of moment down? Obviously, you've said there's way more because often in New Zealand, especially, we think that we're really multicultural, but until you go to somewhere like, for me, Sydney Sydney is a really multicultural. Like you've got the Lebanese, you've got all the Middle
Yes,
Eastern people, you got
yes.
people from the subcontinent, you got, obviously all the Europeans in there, and Sydney seems to be a massive mashup of different cultures, and then London's a totally different thing. And then sometimes I think in New Zealand we think we're multicultural, and I remember having Damon Salesa on the podcast, and he said we're not multicultural. We just got many cultures who are kind of living in monocultural areas.
Yeah. True, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he said like one school in Auckland, De La Salle College, if you had a look at their photos, it was all white and then it was all just brown. Like yeah, So is that what you mean? All these cultures were in the one place, and often in New Zealand, they're all separated.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. It was just like they were all just working and living in and amongst each other. It was just so, yeah, it was just foreign. It was just so different to what I'd experienced.
And is your wife Pacifica or is she
My wife
Parangi?
is Balangi. Yeah,
So was it that kind of moment for her as well?
yeah, I believe so. I believe so. Because she grew up in a small town. Oh, she was born in Levin, so just down the road from
Oh
Palmy.
yeah.
But grew up in Te Puke in the Bay of Plenty. And that's a small town too. So it was just massive for both of us, really.
All right. So you play in Scotland. What was that like? What was it like playing? Man, it feels like it's freezing cold up there.
Mate, this is the coldest I've ever been in my whole life. And I was up far north as well, in a
Yeah.
place called Aberdeen.
Oh
They
yeah.
call it the Granite City, and it was just grey there the whole time. I was trying to look for the sun, couldn't see it. My tan was disappearing, and yeah, it was crazy. Like a couple of games got called off because the ground was frozen. Like
Really?
like literally, you couldn't tell the difference if you walked from the concrete onto the grass. Your sprigs did not dig in at all.
And
There's
so
insane.
was it a conscious decision to not play the second year in the same place and go to England, which kind of felt a little bit more, uh, you know, better climate?
Absolutely,
Yeah, I thought
absolutely.
so.
When I got the call to go down to, funnily enough, the club we went to was Canterbury, which is
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
My brother
Canterbury.
played there.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep. So I went down, the club Canterbury in Kent.
yeah.
And yeah, south. So the north is Aberdeen, Scotland, freezing cold. In the south, yeah, it's opposite to New Zealand. You go south and it gets warmer.
Yeah, I remember my brother was in Clifton first, which is around uh I forgot the name of it, but it's like the Las Vegas of England. It's in the north. Anyway, I
Blackpool.
went to what was yeah, Blackpool. He was around Blackpool, yeah. So I went to a training there in Preston when I went to visit him, and there was
Oh,
the
okay.
Samoan dude, and he goes, "You want to come for a ride with me to Scotland?" And I was like, "Nah." I couldn't even handle the English cold, man. And then I was like,
Yeah.
because I was down in Devon, and I went and
Oh,
visited my brother, who at the time was up at Clifton, yeah, around Clifton, Blackpool area.
okay.
And I was like, nah, don't, man. I can't imagine going there. And that's why I asked the question because I was thinking, I'm sure he moved south to get out of that cold, man.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And that year is actually one of the hottest summers they ever had. It was like 30 degrees in the month of June. Yeah, the whole month. Loved it.
Oh, man.
Good
So,
choice.
so you went over on a 2-year visa, is that right?
Yes. Yep.
And then what happens when you come back with that shift in paradigm or the worldview, thinking, man, I'm
Yeah.
from, there's
Yeah,
a
it
massive
was
word
it was
out there.
kind of crazy because we came back to Palmy, because that's it's where we were when we left. It was the base. My family are there. But I just came back going, actually, I can't go back to the way it was. I can't go back to doing the same thing I did before because I've just had this experience overseas that's kind of changed how I see the world. Um, and that there is more. There is more out there. And, and in my, Christian walk and faith, you know, God is always saying, hey, there's always more to this life. And I think that was a part of it, was to come back and go, actually, I'm a different man, I'm a different person, and I want to do something different. So I touched base with my mentor at the time. So I had a mentor in my kind of early 20s, and he was a financial advisor, funnily enough. and he knew some people, and he goes, "Oh, Willie, have you ever thought about working in a bank?" And I was like, "Actually, I have. You know, I've always wanted to get into finance because always wanted to understand money because we didn't understand it growing up."
Mm.
And so when I got that opportunity, I was super nervous, and I just sprinted in that direction. I had a meeting with the branch manager. It was kind of my interview, I suppose, and I was super nervous. I was freaking because I knew nothing about banking.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then I got the job.
So yeah, I guess going back to your point about being a Christian and hearing this message that God is always saying more, I kind of find it funny sometimes when we go to church and we believe that God breathed the world into existence, and then we hallelujah all Sunday, and then on Monday we go back to living pretty mediocre lives, like not inspired by that
That's right,
creation story and the miracles that God has all through the Word and all through our
100%.
lives and stuff like that. I kind of find that doesn't really align with walking out, our belief system.
Yeah.
But you had a mentor. How come you had a mentor?
So the church we were going to, that they were really into mentorship.
Oh, cool.
It was quite a. So I started going to my wife's church, and it was a real, I suppose, forward thinking, um, progressive kind of church, and they really wanted to build leaders in their church, leaders of families first and foremost, and leaders of business and whatever your kind of gifting was,
Yeah,
and they kind of we just kind of started hanging out, and we just it was kind of more a mentorship we had kind of one-on-one meetings every
yeah,
kind of fortnight, but it was more like just hanging around. I kind of hung around him and his wife and their kids, and kind of just learnt by osmosis how a family could operate,
yeah.
and that was kind of eye opening to me. And he became my mentor, um, and I suppose there's that proverb that if you want to feed a man, you give him a fish. Actually, I can't remember the proverb.
Yeah, or teach them
uh,
how to fish rather than give
yeah,
them a fish kind of thing. Yeah,
yes, yep,
yeah.
yep. And he was kind of like in that vein, and he taught me how to fish, and he taught me kind of financial services. He taught me how to do family, how to do life. Um, yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah,
things.
it's funny because sometimes, like oftentimes we don't understand money. But when we don't understand money, we can sometimes throw all those other proverbs at them, like the love for money and all that.
Yes.
And I was having a look on social media, and I saw a dude up in Auckland. And there's people who go around and say like, "Hey, what do you do for a job? How much do you make?"
Oh,
And all that kind of stuff. This one dude up in Auckland said to the Samoan guy, "Oh, what do you do?" He's a real estate agent, and he
oh
was
yeah.
like, "Yeah, so you can make like off a 600 or $700,000 house. I don't know if this is right, but he said you can make about 10 grand." And then the guy goes, "How many houses have you sold in a year? Like max, like your best year?" And he's like 100 or just over 100, which people have done the math that it's going to end up that he probably made a mil. And then I had a look at the comments, and like a lot of them were like, "Oh, awesome, bro! Well done, good work. We need this, we need this." And then there's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're selling indigenous lands to, you're ripping off indigenous land," or "Oh yeah, you're a liar. That math doesn't make sense." Like, so we have this difficult relationship, or we don't have enough knowledge around finances sometimes. But then when somebody makes it, we we try to demonize we try to demonize the fact that they do understand it and that they're making it, and that the fact you can really help many people with heaps of
Yeah,
resources.
that's right.
Um,
That's right.
what has it been a bit funny for you being right in the middle of that money sector and being a Pacific person?
Yeah, yeah. I think there are incorrect perceptions of money. Like I feel like in the past, and probably through our kind of Christian faith, and while it is well-meaning, it's almost this side of money is the root of all evil. Whereas it's the love of money is the root of all evil. If you love the money, but it's not money itself, because money is in itself is a neutral. The way I see it, money is this neutral thing that can be used for good or for evil. It kind of just magnifies what's in here. If you get $1 million and inside is, I'm all about the money, like things and stuff like that, that money's just going to disappear. And you see that in a lot of lottery winners. They've done the stats on lottery winners, and a lot of them are back to that same place of having no money because there was no wealth inside. They had wealth outside before they built it inside, and then the money disappeared.
That's awesome. And that's a good analogy too. Yeah. So, obviously it's a sensitive subject, especially in and amongst the, Pacifica communities, just with, the things that come with it. You got into banking, then what happens?
Yeah, so I just started learning. Like I felt like God was saying, "Hey, this is your university, so to speak. You had
Your
a
second
chance
one.
at the real university, and you threw it away. You wasted an opportunity, and this is your second chance. Because God is he's a God of second chances. And this was my second chance to learn, and that's what I did throughout my career. I started not only learning about banking, financial services, and products, and how they could help you. I started watching and learning customers' behaviors. I could see, because I could see people's bank accounts. I could see what people were spending, what people were saving, what kind of debt levels people had, what businesses had. And I just started to make kind of my own internal log of like, oh, that's a good behavior of spending or of money management. That's a not so good. And so I was like, actually, I'm gonna write that one down.
Awesome.
And then and then as I started to meet more and more customers, I'd ask them more and more questions like, oh, why did you do that with your money, or why are you hiring that person? When I got into commercial banking, it was looking after larger businesses, and so I started seeing, understand cash flows, what it meant to hire staff, HR, all that kind of stuff that surrounds a business. So I could take that knowledge and help my own family and help extended family, and help them get
So
into
out of those
money.
experiences, what's some low hanging fruit lessons that you got that other people might be able to glean?
I think it's like they are really simple. Like people think money is extremely complicated, but the key part that I saw that people who were doing really well with money was just looking after those cents, like writing it down, recording. Hey, here's the money that comes in. Where's it going?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and is there a
obviously
system for
it
that?
is completing a budget. It's like that's completing a budget, and a budget is just a plan for your money. And so if you could write everything that's coming in, you write everything that's going out, you have essentially noted everything that you've kind of gone, this is it. This is the picture. These are the facts. You're not lying to yourself and going, actually, I've got more money. It's going to be all good. We'll just get that on Afterpay or whatever. We'll sort it out later. But I think it's facing the facts, confronting your financial position, was what I saw that people did well. Just kind of.
So did you translate that into your own life?
It takes a while.
Yeah.
I think what I did see as well is that a lot of professionals, financial professionals, accountants didn't really matter what industry, is that they had expertise, but didn't necessarily translate to personal finances straight away. Like my wife and I went through kind of hard times. Incomes were we were on that. We were young and beginning that income kind of phase. It starts to ramp up. But I think those hard times really taught us that, hey, we need to live within our means.
Yeah.
Basically just spend less than what we earn. And if we do need something, we're gonna save up for it and write it down as a goal. And then we're gonna work towards it bit by bit.
All right. So how did you go from a teller to a mortgage broker?
Yeah. So generally the progression in banking is if you start at a teller, you become a personal banker. And personal banker, you learn pretty much everything in banking. You learn insurances, KiwiSaver, investments, accounts, but the key part is lending. So knowing how to lend. If you can lend, you can pretty much go anywhere in banking and then become a mortgage broker. So it's those lending skills which are key to becoming a mortgage broker.
Yeah, and then so the other side of lending is debt.
Yes.
Yeah, so we know and we've heard in many places there's good debt and bad debt. I remember you saying early on, you blew lots of money, just like you probably 95% of us did. And I blew lots of money as well, and got into debt, and then didn't answer the phone because it might be Baycorp, and then moved to Australia like about 50% of the other. Nah, it's getting too deep now.
Yeah.
Nah. No, but you know what I mean. Like, so we often, when we're young, get into bad debt, and then that cripples us for the rest of our wealth creation journey and stuff like that. Like, how do you like how do you think is the best way to get out of it? And then how do we leverage good debt, and what does good debt mean?
How do we get out of it? There are kind of techniques out there, and the key one is called the snowball technique.
Oh yeah.
That's probably the popular one. And essentially, if you've got multiple debts, you kind of line them up from the smallest to the largest, and then you put all the repayments on minimum repayments. And that leftover money that you have, you put all of that on the smallest one first, and then just to smash that out, because you get that one paid off, and then that's gone, tick it off, and then you put all your money on the next one, and then you tick that one off and pay, and then so on. It snowballs until you pay off all your debt. And the key thing in regards to why that's so successful is because it's about behavior. You want to see yourself progressing. It's more of a mental thing, as opposed to being logical and going, actually, that one's got the highest interest rate, I should pay that one off first. But the snowball technique is about behavior, because it's behavior that got you that debt.
And then you get all those like dopamine hits and stuff like that once you pay that one off, and then you'll seek to get the other one off. And then all of a sudden,
So you just you kind of celebrated each one and go, cool, let's get the next one, cool, and then the next one, and so on. But in regards to good debt, I think there is good debt, but generally it's debt that you've used to purchase an asset. An asset is something that increases in value over time. So if you get debt to purchase something like a vehicle, which kind of comes down in value as soon as you buy it. So if you bought a brand new vehicle and you got a car loan for it, then that's technically bad debt, because it's a higher interest rate than most loans. And that's what banks call consumer debt, is you have purchased something that you're going to consume. So if you get a afterpay and you buy some clothes, it doesn't actually grow in value, unless you're buying Air Jordans or something like that. But if you're buying, your normal clothes or shopping, it doesn't increase in value, and it doesn't help you create more money. Like if you're a business, or if you're like a farm, you use debt to buy a tractor, it's going to help you get more crops, make more money.
Yeah.
Then that's good debt.
Cool. So as a personal banker, you learned about insurances, you learned about all these, it was kind of a holistic picture.
Mm.
So when thinking of, like, if we go over to the wealth creation, then what are you seeing in Pacific communities, especially there in Christchurch? Like, are you getting heaps of people coming into the home ownership space? What do you reckon the data looks like for us in terms of renting versus ownership and stuff like that?
Yeah. Pacific stats for home ownership are pretty, well, it's poor. We have the lowest home ownership rates out of all the ethnicities in New Zealand.
Why?
So, because we do not, I think it's because we don't see the value for owning our own home. I think we've been stuck in renting for so long, and we've just become we've become renters. Yeah.
What's the biggest barrier? So obviously, because you said that, we obviously got into bad debt because of behaviors. Are there behaviors that are keeping us in the rental market, or is it more of a mindset that we don't value it?
I think it's a bit of that kind of debt, but the other thing is whakalawe. That is probably been a huge one that I've had to kind of help and counsel a lot of Pacifica families through, because we're kind of not well equipped for them, because they kind of come out of the blue, and sometimes, which is great, because we're generous and we want to care for our families, and it's all really, really cool stuff. Like, we want to get around and support our families, but the only downfall is we're not ready for those hits when they come. Like,
Yeah.
and some cases I've seen families, like, they get asked for 1,000, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10,000, and a lot of the time I've seen it go towards, or that money comes from a loan.
And I guess in my context, like, because I'm getting older and we live collectively, right? So we've got massive families,
yes,
and I'm getting older. So as you get older, more people are passing.
yes.
So last year, I think I had 3 cousins and two aunties, I think. So you love them, but there's just more people then to give money to through these kinds of events, and then more will also have kids and probably get married, and so it's the amount, but then it's also the volume.
True.
Which is why Australia looks pretty good. Nah. But I'm
The
actually
incomes are a
telling
lot
the
higher now.
truth. I think a lot of us who have migrated to Australia, there's probably a vast majority who have come to try to marry up the collective living and the whakalawe, which is a beautiful process if we take it
Yes.
to its origins,
Yep.
intersected with the society that we're living in with capitalism, and you have this much money, you don't have your own traditional lands that you can raise your own cows and do your own manga and stuff like that.
True.
Getting that intersection right, I think a lot of people did flee in some ways to Australia to get a bit of a better balance for their own nuclear families. You're still there in New Zealand, and I'm not saying that the behaviours have changed in Australia, because behaviours are behaviours. They move with the person, and if that's the way you are, then that's the way you are. But man, how are we going to get out of these dire data sets?
It's 100%. It's a tricky one. But what I've seen work to a certain degree is, much like we can put money, say it's 10% to tithe. A lot of our Pacific families tithe. We can do that for whakalawe as well. We can put, say, 5% of our income towards a savings account, and that builds up over time, and to when that call comes, because it's not. I say to a lot of my customers, it's not if, it's when, because that call will come, and you will want to help them, because that's in our nature. It's in who we are as as Pacifica to help and support our families. It's a beautiful thing. But yeah, when that call comes, you've got money ready, and you don't have that kind of anxiety boost when it comes. So that's what I've seen work in some families. That's how our family, our extended family, kind of do it. We put into a pool, we pull our funds, and then so when things come up, we're kind of ready.
Cool. Let's move away from those who aren't in home ownership, and let's just think about wealth creation for those who are out into the home ownership market.
Yep.
What do you recommend? What are you seeing in terms of in property investments? Is it still a good option? There's those things around, do you go for yield or do you go for capital growth? What's
Or both.
Yeah, or both. What's your advice given that you're close to the action?
Yeah, like it's probably just what I've seen over the years. People who have gone on to create successful property portfolios is that kind of capital growth over the long term. It's much like a share portfolio. You're in it for a long term, and the general trend is up. The graph goes like that, and it's much and it's the same with property. It's kind of buying and holding, but obviously making sure that cash flow that you have does pay off as much as possible, and give you kind of that yield for long-term passive income as well.
And are you seeing many Pacifica people come through going for that long game and buying really properties with really good fundamentals for long-term capital growth? Because over here in Australia, essentially we're saying if you get the right asset, you could double the value of that asset over a decade.
That's right. Yeah, and it's the same here as well. But I don't see that many Pacifica coming through. And I go to quite a few kind of property investment seminars as well, and I'm probably one of 3 or 4 in the room of, let's say, 100. So I think it's more of an awareness thing. But once you're in there and you understand the processes, the kind of long-term benefit of your property doubling in value over 10 years, then it's a pretty, not easy, but a simpler way to create generational wealth.
Cool. So let's go out then from the actual wealth creation thing and just talk back to your story. You're in Christchurch, you're a mortgage broker. What is a mortgage broker, man? Like, do you get a commission and then do you get a base and then the commission? Are you kind of like a business within a broader business?
Yeah. But a bit of everything actually. So mortgage brokers, we kind of work with we do work with all the banks. So before I was obviously employed by a bank, and I was paid by them. But now I'm essentially self-employed. I contract to a business, to a firm called NZ Mortgages, and we are self-employed. And so once we find a home loan for you, obviously suited to your goals, then we get paid. Once the home settles, we get paid by the bank. So it's pure commission. There's no retainer, no salary. We are pure commission based.
Oh, okay. No retainer, no base.
Yeah.
Cool. So then do you have to have really good relationships with real estate agents?
Yeah. Networking is absolutely key to our kind of getting referrals. So yeah, real estate agents, lawyers, accountants, all those guys that kind of surround the property transaction. To be a successful mortgage broker, you need to have good connections.
What do you reckon about Pacifica people and our strengths in terms of getting into the industry? Would you encourage us to get in?
Absolutely. I think it's an industry that's underrepresented by Pacifica. I remember when I started all those years ago, I was probably, one out of, I was the only Samoan, definitely in Palmy, working in banking. It wasn't until I went to Auckland to our trainings and stuff, and I started to see a few more Pacifica. But it's a great industry to learn financial services. But I know that it's even more important because you learn those skills and you can bring them back and translate them into your family, into your extended family, and help them too. So
So obviously, the more mortgages you sell, the better for you. So is it more lucrative than like how you found it in terms of pay? If we're talking about money, is it worth it on the pay side?
Yeah, yep, 100%. Yeah. So, what would I say? Probably a beginning mortgage broker. If they had their networks and things like that all sorted out, would probably earn between 110, $140,000 per
Yeah.
year. Yep, and more established, 200, 250, and my boss, he'd be in the, a couple more zeros.
Awesome, man. So what's the plan for you in terms of using your knowledge through the, banking sector, understanding insurances and shares and all those kinds of investment pathways?
Mm,
What about can we just touch on your personal wealth creation journey? Don't need to go
yeah, yep.
deep, but like I think what we don't have often is stories and role models who are going through their wealth creation journey, and that's why I didn't want to really talk to the renting market too long because we've heard that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But what about those people who are trying to get ahead, who have got into home ownership and want to build wealth?
Yeah, well, the crazy thing is like, I'm my kind of wealth creation journey kind of goes like this, and then it goes down like this, and then it kind of pops back up again. Because we bought our first home, I think must have been 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were kind of on that journey, but kind of halfway through that, we felt like this calling to go to Samoa. And so we did that for 12 months when we sold everything.
Wow.
We sold our home, and there's not, when you go to a financial advisor and you say, I'm going to sell everything, I'm going to go, and I feel like God is calling me to go and give my time up and do some volunteer work, who will tell you not to do that. So,
Yeah.
so my journey is kind of not the normal journey in terms of what you want to do. But funnily enough, when we came back after that 12 months of volunteer work, I was trying to, we only had, we came back in a little bit of debt actually, because we were setting back up in New Zealand. But I had a little bit of money in my KiwiSaver, kind of super funds, and so I managed to get that out. And I understood the market, and we only had $30,000 in my KiwiSaver. And I kind of was just looking around. I'm like, man, what can we do? I need to get a home for my family.
How old are you?
That must have been 30. Yeah, it's been 10 years since we've been back from somewhere. Yeah, 31. 31.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 41 now. So 31, jumping on the market there. And I'd seen a section in Wellington. It was in a really good area, up on the hill. And I was like, man, I need to get that section. And it was at the time, it was priced for $200,000.
Wow.
Yeah. I know. Looking back now, I was like, I should have bought the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
But yeah, back then it seemed like a lot of money. And so I got my KiwiSaver out, put this deposit down, and then I had this long settlement. So one of the key things is if you're doing an investment, it's a pro and a con. Like there's risk either way. But I had this long settlement, so which means I don't have to pay it for a long
Straight
time.
away.
Yep, and it was the last section in this beautiful subdivision, and generally you want to be the last on. And so managed to get my KiwiSaver out and bought that section, and within kind of 9 months, that section had gone up by $90,000. It was insane.
Wow, almost half.
Yeah, it gone up by 90,000. So it was like, actually, we don't live in that area, but I wanted to get that section, so we sold that section.
Wow.
Yeah, which was, we made more money, got the 90,000 profit, got my 30,000. KiwiSaver, cash that out because you here and you can't use KiwiSaver for anything else.
Yeah.
You can only buy a house with it. So managed to cash that out. Obviously pay tax because taxman will look for you. Pay a bit of tax, but yeah, I had money for a deposit for a new place, which was kind of crazy, given that we had nothing, and in 12 months, that's how quickly property can turn around. So that was kind of getting back on the market, and we've kind of since then we bought here in Rolleston, which is just outside Christchurch.
Yeah.
Bought a place for $600,000. This was this was about 5 years ago now. But Rolleston got lucky. Thank you, Jesus. Got lucky. And this place is kind of a booming area here. It had all the infrastructure coming. The main road from Christchurch hadn't been completed. So those are part of the key things you need to look for when buying property is, hey, what's the infrastructure?
Yeah.
When's it coming? Because once that hits, the market will rise. And so supermarkets were coming, all the council was spending heaps of money here. And so in 5 years, the population has doubled here. And so property prices have gone up by around, let's say conservatively $200,000.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of extra equity that is now sitting in this house. So yeah.
So will you look to use that equity to buy others?
Yeah. Yep. So we have done that.
Oh, cool.
So we've used that we did do build and sell, but that was a joint venture with an investor. But I went joint venture on that one because an opportunity came past my desk. And obviously being in the industry, you can see more opportunities, and you just got to make sure you choose the right one. This one happened to be the right one at the right time. And we purchased a property for $550,000, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, double garage, brand new place. And we built that one. And then we sold that, I think it was a year later. It was quite slow because it was in that COVID time, maybe a bit longer than that. And we sold it for $690. So
awesome.
So we sold and split the profits on that. But yeah, that's kind of my journey into it. And we're currently building another one.
Awesome.
Which is down south near Wanaka. Yeah.
So you're going to look to keep doing that pattern of buy, build, sell?
Yeah. Actually, no, because the market has changed. You do have to be aware of the market and what's happening. There's no longer that margin to make profit on build and sell because prices have increased, and so have land prices. Yeah.
So you go for established ones?
Yeah, probably. And
cool.
Probably look at doing rentals.
Yeah. Investment. Man, that's awesome, man. So out of all that, obviously, how you said you've dipped and you're coming back around. I think, because time is the key component when you were thinking about investment. You're in your early 40s, so have you mapped out a plan to get you to like maybe double your age, 80?
I have, but I the crazy thing is like, these investment kind of maps kind of go like that. But when I think when you walk with God, the map kind of goes like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of in a bit of a pivot at the moment into really focusing in on my mortgage business. And just really making sure our processes are good there. While I can still do investment, I feel like this is my focus. So
yeah, well, I guess the main wealth creation vehicles are property, shares, and business, and then super and things like that. But so tell me about your business. What's the key for being a Pacific business owner? How's that going? And what are some of the lessons you've got from building your own brand and your own business and trying to set up all the processes and lead generation and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's been tricky but mainly because you're not really used to putting yourself out there. I think it's been a huge kind of growth area for me, because Pacifica in a general sense, I suppose, are a bit more reserved.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to marketing, it's it's this kind of barrier we have to kind of push through to go, actually, I'm just telling people these are my skills, these are my giftings. It's kind of like, I think I put too much pressure on myself, but yeah, I think it's actually a natural thing just to go, hey, if you need help with that, I'm good at this, I can do this, I can help you get there. Yeah. But
Yeah,
again,
no, I've seen your content. It's great. But back in COVID before my business really pushed out, I had Wayne Henry, who was my mate from school, who's the mortgage
oh
broker
yes,
back up in
yes,
Auckland. And I was like, man, you named yours Wayne Henry Mortgages. How did, you know, how does that feel? He's like, oh no, bro. Like he's always been a really, really confident guy. He's like, nah, bro, this is all good. This is me. This is my brand. This is who I am. He had
awesome.
no beef with it, or he had no kind of reluctance or hesitancy to self-brand his one. And
Mm,
it blew me away because I was like, man, I can't even go and do content in front of a camera and stuff. But I've seen your content. I think it kind of positions nicely. It is about adding value to other people, and you've got the Pacifica Home Buyers,
yes.
that kind of label, and it's niche down. So, are you comfortable with it now? And how's the business going for you?
Yeah, I am comfortable with it now. I am kind of getting a bit more used to being in front of the camera. And I think positive feedback, like from yourself, so thank you, has kind of reinforced that, hey, it's good, it's helping people, and
Hmm.
it's generating leads, which is kind of great. It's obviously providing education and informing people, but then it also builds trust too. So but then it can actually help people, and that's what I'm passionate about, getting people into their own homes. So it's kind of this, reinforcing circle of cool, getting out there, educating, informing, and then those leads come through, and then I can help people, and I feel positive about helping people. So yeah, no, it's been cool.
Cool. So, just a few more things because I'm mindful of time. But one, what did you do in Samoa?
We were volunteering at a place called a Victim Support Group,
Ah, yeah.
Samoa. Yeah, yep.
Is that
So they
SVSG?
were, yes, that's the one. That's the one. Yep. So they provide kind of shelter for kids, youth who have been kind of abandoned or kind of kicked out or on the street really in Samoa.
Oh,
So we kind of volunteered cleaning, helping provide food there. And we did that for 6 months, and then the other 6 months we were kind of just chilling out in Samoa.
cool. And then, um, in terms of business, what's been the biggest lesson? Because you're obviously a mortgage broker. That's the technical thing that you do, but
Mm.
creating a business requires you to have systems and processes and other experts like accountants and that to
Mm.
make sure that you're compliant and that you're profitable and all that kind of stuff. How's that journey been?
Not too tricky, mainly because I've already had those financial kind of professionals around in banking. Yeah,
Mm,
so well, it was still a tricky transition out of banking, but I kind of knew who to contact if I needed help, and obviously had mentors and friends in the industry, and lean against their experience as well, the kind of previous mortgage brokers who had been bankers. So I think those kind of friends that you make in banking, friends that you make along the way, just kind of helped me and supported me a lot in that journey. So
cool, man. Um, any any last kind of pieces of advice for people? I know a lot of, like it's a big burden, for people who don't own a home because it was a
mm,
massive, massive burden for me. It almost like makes you question, for a father and for a husband, it almost makes you question your whole identity when, oh man, I'm supposed to provide. I haven't got our own home. And then for me, my wife and I were renting, and we moved from suburb to suburb like 5 times and stuff like that before we really understood the wealth creation thing, and then started to get into business and stuff like that. But any advice for those people who are feeling that anxiety, who really just want to get in a home? Because how I see it is, if you can pay your rent, you can actually have a home. The biggest barrier is the deposit.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
you know what I mean? Because you are paying what is almost equivalent to mortgage payments.
Yep.
So any last pieces of advice?
I would say talk to a really good mortgage broker as soon as you can.
Yeah, even if you don't think you're ready for it.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Because you never know, you might be ready.
Yeah.
But they'll be able to tell you if you're not, and ask them specifically, okay, what can I do to increase my chances of getting a home loan pre-approved? Yeah. So it's having that question earlier rather than later. Because if you ask, say you pick up the courage 6 months later, and then you talk to them, they might go, actually, you just need to do this, and it might take you 6 months to do everything that he said. So the quicker you talk to them, the sooner you can do something about it.
Awesome, man. We'll leave it there, bro. I really appreciate that. And if you need a mortgage broker, where we're going to find you? Obviously, I'll have all your handles in the show notes and that, but you just want to shout out your own socials and your own lead generation kind of platforms.
Cool. Yep. So I'm on Facebook as Willie Leota Mortgage Advisor. And then if you're on Instagram, I'm on Pacific Home Buyers. So just search those up, and then I'm on LinkedIn as well. So Willie Leota. Yeah.
Awesome, bro. Well, thank you, man. It's awesome to see people pioneering and getting out in this space, especially around wealth creation and all these avenues to create wealth, and then to be able to set our families up for, and communities up for greater things with greater resource, and walk out the will of God through being well resourced. But yeah, congratulations to you and your family, your wife, and you've made some hard decisions. You've gone and done some really good things in the islands, and you've come back and just been faithful, and you've seen your wealth grow, you've seen your family grow. And so we wish you all the best down there in Christchurch. Stay warm. And hope the Chiefs beat the Crusaders.
Awesome. No, thanks. It's been awesome. Thanks for having me on.
All right, thanks, bro. Well, there you have it, Willie Leota, a Christchurch-based mortgage broker who's lived life to the full and is really passionate about seeing Pacifica home ownership increase, and also intergenerational wealth increase for our people, but also for the mainstream there in New Zealand. Thank you, Willie, for joining us. What a story! A great takeaway for me was the importance of mentors in our lives. He went overseas to play footy on the back of a link from a mentor, and his life really took a different perspective from there. He got out of his comfort zone when he returned to New Zealand and has travelled to different places with his wife and now with his children. All the best, Willie. We'll have all your links in the show notes. Please follow him and continue to take insights from the content that he's producing on his social media. Okay, that's it for this week. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, follow us on Manawai's Group. @Manawai's Group is our handle on Insta, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Right, thanks and God bless.